5 people have been killed and 26 others injured in a car explosion outside a hotel in Mogadishu on Friday evening. Somalia's rebel militant group Al-Shabaab's claimed responsibility for the blast, which targeted government officials and members of parliament who frequent the hotel. A senior Somali diplomat who's been the head of mission in Somalia's embassy in the UK was among those killed. Mogadishu has often been the target of attacks by Al-Shabaab militia, an Al-Qaeda-aligned Islamist group that was driven out of the capital by African troops 2 years ago.
A vehicle parked with explosives was detonated outside the hotel. We can confirm that 5 people have been killed, among them 3 security officers, and 26 others have also been injured. This is the work of the Al-Shabaab.
Madagascar's presidential race will go to a runoff vote next month. No candidate won an outright majority in last month's first-round vote, meaning the 2 frontrunners will have to square off on December 20th. Susan Mongeli reports.
The head-to-head contest will pit Robinson Jean-Louis, who won 21.1% of the votes, against Harry Rajaonarimampiana, who came second with 15.93%. The president of Madagascar's Electoral Commission, BEATRICE ATALLAH, said the irregularities cited by some of the candidates will be ironed out before the second round.
The Senate Electoral Commission will do its best within the limits of the law to ensure that the problems we had in the first round will be corrected, including the voters' register for the next round.
Although they gave a nod to the overall voting process, some observers raised concern over glitches in the registration of voters, which left large numbers unable to cast ballots and opaque campaign fundraising. Madagascar's Prime Minister OMAR lauded the candidates and voters, saying the voting environment had remained peaceful.
Despite the large number of 33 candidates, I think we performed our duties well on the day, because the candidates campaigned for a whole month peacefully and the election was held in a peaceful environment, with the candidates demonstrating mutual respect for each other.
But there are fears the December runoff risks escalating political tensions. This is because the 2 aspirants are backed by Madagascar's biggest political rivals. Harry Rajaonarimampiana is backed by coup leader turned president Andry Rajoelina, while Jean-Louis Robinson is supported by Marc Ravalomanana. Diplomats caution the electoral process could still be derailed. They are watching the military carefully. There are still those opposed to the return from exile of Ravalomanana, a scenario widely expected if Robinson wins. Susan Mongeli, CCTV.
Another news from across the continent. Libyan forces made a rare show of force on the streets of Benghazi in a bid to put an end to instability that's left the city plagued with assassinations and small-scale bomb attacks. The show by the Thunderbolt Brigade drew cheers from assembled crowds frustrated with Benghazi security woes. Authorities in Tripoli have struggled to impose order over the rest of the country, with militias often taking the law into their own hands. Elsewhere, 3 people were killed on Friday during clashes between the MNLA Tuareg separatist group and the Malian army in the north of the country. The MNLA claimed on its website that the Malian army arrested several civilians and executed 3 of them, wounding 3 others near Menaka. The Malian Defense Ministry said a group of armed bandits had attacked a Malian army patrol in the same area. A vehicle, arms, ammunition and communications equipment were seized. And finally, more than 1 million people in the Central African Republic are under threat from hunger because of poor harvests and violence. That's according to the UN's World Food Programme. A survey by the agency shows that the last harvest could run out at the beginning of 2014, 4 months earlier than usual. The impoverished landlocked nation's been marred in chaos since the Seleka coalition of rebels ousted longtime President Francois Bozize in March. The 3rd plenary meeting of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee is underway in the capital, Beijing. The meeting is expected to set China's economic policy for the coming year. 1 year after China's new leadership was announced, the CPC Central Committee is now ready to unveil a comprehensive reform package. Over the next 4 days, China's decision makers will draw out plans to lead the country toward further reforms, better growth and stability. Political analysts say the closed-door meeting is expected to announce reforms aimed at lessening the controlling role the government plays in the economy. Possible measures to do that could include cutting red tape and more targeted and efficient regulations. Some of the other key challenges expected to be taken up include corruption and overinvestment. China has become an increasingly important ally to Africa. Xi Jinping's presidency has heralded closer ties in terms of investment and political influence. And with the third plenary session, many hope more engagement is on the cards.
As a vivid signal of intent, Xi Jinping began his time in office by visiting Africa. It was a 6-day tour that took in Tanzania, South Africa and the Republic of Congo. And Xi made clear Beijing values its ties with the continent.
In 2012, bilateral trade grew to nearly $200 billion between China and Africa. People-to-people exchanges reached over 1.5 million. China's direct investment to Africa has reached $15 billion. In the past 50 years, China sent 18,000 medical personnel to Africa. 250 million African people have been medically treated. People in Africa have also provided great support and selfless help to the Chinese people.
Xi also hosted a string of African leaders in Beijing, among them Nigeria's Goodluck Jonathan, and a month later, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta. Both leaders were able to conclude lucrative investment agreements. And South Africa recently sent a high-powered delegation to talk business with Beijing, led by Deputy President Halim Motlanthe. Beijing has shown itself far more sympathetic to the cause of the African Union than the West. Just this week, it backed AU calls for a deferral of the trial of Kenya's leaders at the International Criminal Court. Relationships between China and Africa have never been this close. So for many on the continent, there's a lot of hope and expectation around the plenary session. Susan Mongeli, CCTV.